External Affairs Director for the Michigan League for Public Policy. Good morning. My name is Alex Rossman, and I'm the Director of External Affairs for the Michigan League for Public Policy. Touching base with you on a new program we're trying out to engage better with a broader audience on our public policy issues we're working on. I wanted to do a quick update today on some big positive pieces of legislation that are moving related to criminal justice reform in the state of Michigan. So there are related to criminal record expungement and confidentiality. As any individual who has been involved with the justice system knows, a criminal record, however old it may be, can still be an impediment that follows around forever, and can affect their ability to get approved for a lease on an apartment, or a bank loan for a business or entrepreneurial idea, or even getting a job. And in a lot of instances, these crimes were done a long time ago. They were a lapse of judgment, and something that the individual learned from and redirected essentially their life path, and it's still tripping them up today. So there are two different bill packages, one related to an adult criminal record, and then a package of legislation related specifically to juvenile records, which is particularly interesting because I think most individuals believe that a juvenile record is automatically sealed, and it is less accessible than an adult criminal record. But if you know where to look, it's still more or less readily available. So these bill packages would change that. The adult expungement bill package has already passed out of the full House of Representatives and been passed by the Senate Judiciary Committee. So for those unfamiliar with the legislative process, legislation is introduced either in the House or Senate. It goes through a committee process on that side. And then once it's passed out of a committee, it's voted on the full floor by the House or Senate, and then it is sent literally across the hall in the Capitol to the opposite body for consideration. And it goes through the same process of committee hearings and then a full floor vote. And then once it's passed by both the House and Senate, it's sent to Governor Whitmer for her signature into law. So right now, the adult expungement package is farther along. It originated in the House and is going. It has now been passed by the Senate Judiciary Committee. So its last step remaining is a vote on the full Senate floor. Now, the juvenile record expungement is a little farther back in the process. Those are Senate originated bills that have been passed out of Senate committee, but those are still in the Senate awaiting action as well. So in terms of what to pay attention to and where to advocate right now, the full Senate floor is where both of those bill packages are. So you really would want to look up and reach out to your individual state senator and ask them to encourage the Senate leadership to take those bills up for a vote. And when they do come up for a vote, encourage your senator to vote to pass them. Now, these bill packages are bipartisan in nature and do have the support of the Senate leadership. It's just basically a question of timing right now. And we're also in the midst of ironing out a 2021 budget agreement that has to be in place by the end of September in order to avoid a government shutdown. So that's really the brunt of the focus right now in Lansing in the legislature. But we're hopeful that there still can be some action on a few of these criminal justice issues before the month is over. Two other packages of bills that I'd like to update everyone on today. Both are born out of the list of recommendations from the Michigan Jail Task Force. And that was a bipartisan task force of lawmakers and law enforcement officials, criminal justice advocates, organizations representing formerly incarcerated individuals, and also those representing crime victims. And all of those stakeholders came together and worked on an extensive list of recommendations. I'm throwing a link in the chat here that you can look at all those recommendations and take a deeper dive on those. But there is a package of bills related to basically reforming mandatory sentencing in a variety of areas. So these are House Bill 5854 through 5857, and then 5844. And these basically change mandatory jail sentences that are currently enshrined in our law in a variety of areas. So one bill relates to, and it's an interesting example of legislative process at work, and also how intertwined our laws and legislation can be. So the focus is essentially eliminating mandatory jail sentences for a variety of offenses, but that has to be done in different sections of the law. So like one bill relates specifically to natural resource violations. So like hunting or fishing without a license, hunting or fishing out of season, and other things in that regard. I'm blanking on other offenses against Mother Nature, but that is a section of our law, and something that currently there's a variety of offenses in that regard that have a mandatory jail sentence. And so one bill eliminates those. There's another bill that relates specifically to the section of our law that makes it a crime to interfere with the railroad system, interfering with signals or lights, vandalizing them, things like that, eliminating mandatory sentencing in that regard. So this package of bills does that in a few different areas. If anyone's listening and interested in asking me a question, ask me if I've ever experienced vandalism related to railroad tracks. Definitely got some personal anecdotes to share there. Not the reason I'm supporting these bills, but definitely a side piece in getting at the fact that we do all make mistakes in our youth in particular, or early adulthood, and that we should be given opportunities to learn from them and respond to them. And one of those is not sending every person that violates a certain law to jail, and really trying to keep that exclusive to more severe crimes and situations, honestly, where that person is considered a threat to others. And so eliminating in a lot of, I won't say victimless crime, because, I'm a nature lover myself, and I still not fully supportive of anything interfering with the great outdoors and pure Michigan, or would not condone vandalizing any railroad systems, but just understanding that all of those do not necessarily need to result in jail time, and try and limit jail overcrowding and keep it exclusive to more severe offenses in that regard. And then, so that package of bills has been passed by the House Judiciary Committee, and is now awaiting action on the full House floor. Again, if you're just joining me or didn't catch it earlier, there is a link in the chat that I actually am realizing I threw in the background chat, not the comments. And I'm also realizing that I, as a presenter, don't have the ability to comment. So if anyone from the league is listening and wants to help me out here, there's that link in the private chat that goes to courts.michigan.gov. If someone from our staff could grab that and throw it in the comments so that everyone tuning in could see and follow that, that would be great. But those mandatory sentencing reforms have passed out of the House Judiciary Committee and are now awaiting action by the full House. And then the last piece of legislation related to criminal justice that I wanted to discuss today is a very big and important one for us at the League. It's related to driver's license suspensions, both in how many different offenses currently your license can get suspended for that don't relate directly to driving or reckless driving. It's become an extended punishment unrelated to the nature of the crime, and it really hampers individuals' ability to live their day-to-day lives and in particular go to work. And so that's a big area of concern for us. And there is a package of legislation that would reform this. It's very similar to the mandatory sentencing bill, where one bill addresses kind of the broad concept. That is Senate Bill 5846. And then there are bills connected with it, 5847 through 5852, that do the same thing in other areas of the legal code. And in particular, this would not only limit significantly the type of offenses that can result in a driver's license suspension, but it also would prevent driver's license being suspended if an individual has not paid off their court fees or fines. That's another big problem currently, is that if you are in arrears and have debt related to court costs and fines, especially related to traffic infractions, your license gets suspended, and then you end up either not being able to drive, not being able to go to work or pick your kids up from school, or go get a prescription, go get a COVID test, go to the doctor's office, all these essential things, or you do what most people end up doing and you drive anyway without a license, and a lot of times end up getting pulled over and ultimately arrested for that, and even jailed for driving without a license. So this also would lessen the severity of penalties for driving without a license, to not make that as punitive either. And two big considerations with this package of legislation in particular, and really relates to pretty much any criminal justice reform, that unfortunately the way our justice system has been set up for so long, it is disproportionately impacting individuals with lower incomes. You get a traffic violation, and if you have the money, you pay it off and don't think twice about it. But if you aren't able to come up with the money to pay that quickly, you end up with your license suspended. The cost to reinstate, get your license reinstated, is high, and this really ends up compounding debt for individuals with lower incomes. And then the other significantly unfortunate, but very, very true aspect of our criminal justice system is that for decades it has been stacked up against Black and brown people in our state and in our country. They're more likely to get pulled over or have an interaction with police. From those interactions or traffic stops, they're more likely to get a more severe penalty rather than a warning, and in particular more likely to end up getting arrested and taken into jail. So we're very supportive of these bills. Think it's a big step for Michigan residents' economic security, as well as a big step for racial equity in this state. We still have a very, very long way to go, but every piece of legislation that chips away at the longstanding racial injustices in our state is really vital, and that's what these bills do. So they are still awaiting a vote in the House Judiciary Committee. We expect a vote on those next week, and then both of those bill packages will on mandatory sentencing and reforming driver's license suspensions and stops are then going to need to be voted on by the full House of Representatives. So I will go ahead and wrap up, but definitely would encourage you to go to mlpp.org for more information, or you can text 517-281 and what other numbers were up there very quickly. I didn't catch that, and it was not my number. So hopefully someone else saw that if you are tuning in, but really would just encourage you to go to mlpp.org for more information. You can also email me directly at arossman, AROSSMAN, at mlpp.org. We really want to engage with as many people and as many different stakeholders as possible to get these bills passed. And we also know that a very important piece of the advocacy and engagement with elected officials on this legislation is real stories. So if you have been involved with the justice system, if you have a criminal record that's still hindering your ability to get by and live your life in today, or if you've had a driver's license suspension, especially because of a non-driving related offense, or a traffic stop and fees and fines that you couldn't afford to pay, we really want to hear your personal stories. We think that there's certainly a lot of important data out there that honestly is just, in particular, some more data has been recently released on racial disparities in traffic stops and driver's license suspensions, arrests, and all that. But the data is just one piece of the puzzle, and the personal impact and personal experiences is the other. So definitely would encourage you to reach out to myself or any of us at mlpp.org to get more involved in advocacy on this legislation, or to share your personal story and perspective. So that's a quick update on where things are at related to criminal justice reform in the Michigan legislature right now. It's certainly been a very positive area of cooperation between the legislative Democrats and Republicans and the governor, and we hope that will continue to be. So we will keep you posted, and thanks again for joining us today.